This is an interview for Peep-magazine. We're joined with a very talented DJ, photographer, David Guy. We're down at the Star and Shadow Cinema. We're here to chat about his exhibition, photography exhibition, The Realm. It's so great to come down, and actually it's got to be about, I'd say about 20 years since I last seen him. So David, thanks for coming on the channel and thanks for saying hello.
No, cheers for having us. Cheers for getting down and getting your eyes on it.
Can you tell us about the exhibition? Can you tell us about a bit about your photography and what, I was going to say possessed, but what motivated you to do a photography exhibition?
Well, it was a photography degree that brought me to the Northeast in '95, I think. And I came up with a bag of records, and I kind of quite quickly fell into playing parties and DJing, and I suppose that the putting on events and clubs kind of took over from my photography after I graduated, and kind of just was in the background a little bit. Picked up my first digital camera in about 2008, a small Olympus pen, and it always came with us. So there's been, from about 2008 up until now, many of the nights I've been out, I've DJ'd out or been to, I've collated a load of images, and the past year or so I had a bit of headspace and time, so I decided to pull together a bit of work which kind of reflected my time as a DJ and promoter in the Northeast, and came up with The Realm.
The Realm, yeah, brilliant. You arrived in Newcastle with big dreams of being an artsy photographer with a creative records, for motivations wanting to be a DJ and a photographer. Where did you come from? I thought you were always born in Newcastle, but can you tell us where you came from?
Yeah, no, born in Dorset, moved up, as I say, 95. I did 2 years of photography course down in Bournemouth before coming up for my degree. And I suppose at the time in the late 90s, like Newcastle had a good reputation for what I suppose you could call working class documentary photography in the sort of Chris Killip, like the Martin Parr-esque type thing. But I guess, when I came to university, I was in that period. I was reading all my Kerouac and my Ginsberg and Sartre and stuff. I was a beatnik, and obviously the club scene in the 90s. It was at Newcastle. It was a very exciting time. Lots of free parties. So yeah, the clubs kind of dragged me away from my photography. I wanted my photography to reflect my life. But my tutors at college, they were wanting more of that sort of style of kind of more traditional, I'd say, documentary photography. Whereas I've always been a lot more interested in kind of mood and impressions of things. So I was already kind of messing around with out of focus and blurred work back then, but my tutors really didn't like it. So I think that was possibly a bit of a knock to my confidence. But as I say, I've always believed in my work and that photography can be impressionistic as well as documentary, if you like, that it can kind of reflect mood, and that's what I really hope I kind of put into this book. So.
When you say college, do you mean Newcastle College?
I keep saying college. It was Northumbria University. So, but the old poly, it's from those days when, there was a crossover between polys and colleges and unis. But yes, it was Northumbria University back in the day. So, yeah.
You say your records took you to different various places, some interesting places. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, I think, as I say, I came up with them, was in Halls of Residence, Stevenson building, which happened to be right next door to the old Riverside, the original Riverside. So some of my earliest nights were out at things like the Bing Bong Rooms, a legendary night there. And, from flat parties in Halls of Residence, I quickly in my first year got a residency at the Students' Union. That was all thanks to Jim Maudsley, now head of culture in Newcastle. So I've got to give a shout to Jim for it's a lot of his fault. If anyone wants to blame anyone, Jim's a big fault there. And then from those residencies, there was a Tuesday night I did Feel the Funk on a Tuesday there. That then kind of led into a few other events in bars and stuff. And then I suppose after I graduated from college, my first big major event I did was Brave New World, which was I ran it in 99 and 2000, and that was part of the Ouseburn Festival. And as part of the Ouseburn Festival, we ran a day, street culture day basically. So say 99 and 2000, I think it was probably the first street art, although it wasn't being called street art back in those days, festival, where we had DJs and live acts on at the Tanners, outside the Ship, in the Cluny and up at the Cumberland, and we had a load of graph writers painting the arches, and we did that for a couple of years, and until unfortunately things got tagged, as these things do. But then after that, I suppose then Traveller was a big thing that I think a lot of people will remember us for in the early noughties, set up with Andy Hockey and Nick Barrera, Rajan Sajpanu and Mark Smiles. It was a weekly Saturday night in a place called Scotland Yard, sadly no longer with us. But yeah, we did nights with everyone from Aphex Twin to Giles Peterson to DJ Crush, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. So by that stage, I'm fully immersed in all sorts of nooks and crannies in Newcastle, and having an awful lot of fun.
Are you still friends with Raj Panu?
Oh yeah, of course. Raj's brother Sudge is here tonight. Unfortunately, Raj can't be with us this evening. Raj is now in Greece, so he gets over every now and then. I'm still yet to get out to him, so he'll probably knock me about that. But yeah, he's still doing good.
There's a bit of an in joke with the DJ Raj Panu, because one of my good friends who's gone out with this girl, and every time I says, "Oh, well, my girlfriend's going out tonight," he says, "Well, she's going to go downtown to see that fucking Raj Panu." And it's always kind of stuck in your head, that,
Yeah, well, no, I think, one of the things I've said, I've never thought of myself as the greatest DJ. I've always been more of a selector, but I think I like to think I bring interesting tunes to the party. But someone like Raj, he's a special DJ, and I think that's the thing. Like, he's the sort of DJ that you kind of actually get a bit sick of, because you really that good?
Yeah. Well, that, like I say, I don't think what he was saying was a negative thing. I think it's just because his girlfriend was gone down and he kind of didn't like it. But so you don't view yourself as an artist or musician, more a photographer and a DJ. I'm wanting to explore that.
No, it's always a little philosophy that I've had. I've over the years, say from doing work with street artists, other musicians, DJs that I regard as musicians, people like Raj, who kind of do elevate it to a proper musicality. With those people, I see them as pulling something out from the inside, that is something inside that they're pulling out. And I've never, I've tried producing a couple of times, but it was just never my thing. Structures and things like that is, just another stuff that I really settled with. But I think over the years, I'm an observer. I look and I listen, and I think that's what you do with photography and DJing. You kind of take in other scenes that everybody else is maybe seeing, and you capture them and you put them in a different context and you recontextualize them. And that's the same as when you're DJing. You're taking other people's music and you're resequencing it and you're layering it and you're creating something new from it. But it's kind of come from a place of looking out into the world and observing. So I've seen, I see there's different things, not one better than the other, but I definitely sit on the side of being a photographer and a DJ than an artist. I observe rather than project, maybe, I guess.
Right. I've got two questions here. When you, let's say 96, 97, did you find people thought a bit obscure you walking around with a camera, walking around in clubs with a camera, walking around at parties with a camera, because I remember us both being at an exhibition, I think it was called The Kitchen, in town, and we both had cameras, and it wasn't frowned on, but it was kind of, do you know when if someone looks at you if you're wearing an extremely strange hat?
Yeah.
Did you ever get that? But now it's second nature to have a camera.
Yeah, I think there's kind of, again, when I came away to university, I think this is the other. It was both photography and DJing were still very much analog. You know, you kind of, to be a DJ, you had to have hunted out those records. You had to part with your money to build that collection. And the same with photography. You had to buy film, put it through, process it, and they all cost money. So I think ultimately, like when I was at college, that was another big part of it, is trying to balance the finances of a vinyl addiction and putting film through a camera. So
right, it was real film as well, not digital.
Yeah. So I think, you know, really the digital thing didn't really start properly happening until early 2000s. You know, the technology was starting to be there when I was at university, but it wasn't really widespread, and everyone was still using film. And I think so. The being able to university, everyone can access music and things now. Everyone can take pictures now. So in some respects it kind of takes away a little bit from the art form, but I think it's created much more interest in people, and it kind of pushes you to kind of create and be even more original. And again, maybe that's kind of what pushes me down the direction I do go with some of my blurry abstract work.
You're not focused on technical finesse, as you put it, but more capturing an impression, suggestion.
I think, again, like I say, I've been around so many super talented people who have grafted, and you know, I know like, people who know Raj. He wasn't a hip-hop DJ, and then he disappeared for a year, no one saw him, and he came back and he was the best turntablist the North East has ever seen. You know, but that took dedication and craft from him. I guess I don't really have that patience. I love my photography, I love my film, I've done AV projects, I'm motivated by street art, you know, so I jump around lots. So I think with my photography, in the same way as my DJing, I'll play from jazz to hip hop to electronica to bass bits, and try and find how joining the dots, the Giles Peterson thing was the way he always used to put it, and I guess that's the thing, the little musical journeys about how these things all join up. And you know, I've always been a big fan of a real soul in music. So someone like Chet Baker, the jazz trumpeter, he was never the greatest jazz technical trumpet player. He was his voice, his voice got worse and worse over the years, but you know, nobody can argue with the soul or the beauty in Chet Baker's music. And again, he's a one of those beatnik icons, I suppose. So that's the thing. You know, to me, you know, I'm not bothered by pixel peeping or having everything in focus. It's if the image can evoke a feeling for you, and you know, whatever that feeling is, you know, then at least I've evoked something in the viewer, and I think that's what I'm aiming to do. If I can spark a little memory, or do you remember that night, or I can remember feeling a bit like that, and do you remember that night in that place? Those little memories I'm trying to spark. Yeah.
So has this exhibition, this book, The Realm, is this an amalgamation of, say, 20 years of work that you've kind of, why has it taken 20 years? Has it something? Is it because you've been collating them over the years, or?
Well, like I say, I think that the university experience kind of knocked my confidence a little bit, right, to a certain degree. But equally, you know, when say the days of doing Traveller, you know, that's running a club like that, doing weekly things. It's a full-time job in and of itself, and I think it's kind of difficult to split your passions. If you want to really focus on one thing, you've got to focus on one thing. So I suppose really for me, it was a lockdown thing, like for a lot of people, stopped a lot of the event work that I was doing at the time, and I moved to Northumberland, moved out to the countryside, and I think that, you know, it's going to be my 50th late on this week, celebrating that again this weekend. And I know you shouldn't, but there's almost a time when you feel like, well, am I going to? Is it starting to be a bit too old for playing parties and things? So I feel, it was that time that kind of started me thinking, I've got this body of work. I'd started doing a lot more landscape work, and that's another massive passion of mine. That's actually kind of one of the areas that I started in. And living out in Northumberland and the beautiful coastlines, I think my next book is going to probably look very, very different to this, but it did actually kind of make me appreciate the life that I had in Newcastle. And yeah, as I say, the book is a homage to my time in Newcastle, the people, the places. There's references to many different venues and nights out. So yeah, it's a thank you to those years. So.
Some people have got a diary. You've got a collection of it's absolutely great, mate. Yeah, so this is quite interesting because we hadn't spoken for years, and then I seen a comment from the Chronicle, and it was explaining Ouseburn to host Newcastle's first street art festival. And I just think it was maybe not to annoy anybody, but I want to ask your opinion on this, because you quite rightly commented on the post saying not the first, but I just wonder if you could elaborate on that, because you've been there from the start, and I think it's only right that you kind of...
I've got to first say, I'm not a writer, I'm not a graph writer, I've just been a champion of the scene, and I still continue to be. And I know the recent festival was, a lot of my good close pals painting there, and they really have. They've got a brilliant selection of some of the Northeast's finest painters there. But as I say, there is history in the city, and kind of if you go around saying that you're the first thing, and you're not. So it's not any kind of massive ego thing on me, but I suppose some of it could be on the Chronicle. Really, I think somehow how they write, and I think sometimes they're a bit notorious for not doing their research properly. But yeah, I do think like the Ouseburn, the fact that something like that can happen now. I think like back in the late 90s, it was still graffiti, and to most people, it was still vandalism. This is the whole Banksy thing happened about 2002, and that's the moment when I think, for the general public, for years, the subculture of came from kind of hip hop and the whole Mo Wax, the amount of people that Futura 2000 get inspired and what have you through all those works, proper street artists on the street were. They were being appreciated, but it wasn't the mainstream thing that it is now. The councils weren't as agreeable to doing things. It was much harder to put those things on. And over the years, and I'm not saying that I was integral with that, but I was a part of that. Lots of other things have happened. A lot of the venues down in the Ouseburn have supported different artists, paid them to put their work up over the years. There's been other events that have happened down there. So it was just that little comment when they're trying to say that they're the first, and that they were trying to turn Ouseburn into a graffiti destination. It already is. It already is. And that's been happening. That was happening before I was here. It's and that's not down to one individual. That's lots of businesses being tolerant of it. Lots of people being supportive of the work. And yeah, it's great that there is a bigger focus on it, and that finally, the mainstream are kind of catching up, and we're getting events like that. But yeah, just check your histories.
Yeah, of course. Beatitude. I'm wondering what that is. Seeks to explore moments, memories, expressions, experiences. Is this an extension of this exhibition, or is it something different?
Yeah, so I suppose like Beatitude, I think the realm itself is an imagined narrative of a night out. It's images from 12, 15 more years, but there's a story in the realm. There's more work around that. Regarding my kind of nights out, I've got a lot of photography and hip-hop gigs, I've got a lot of portraiture, I've got other kind of abstract work, but a lot of work that didn't actually fit in the narrative that I've presented in the book. So Beatitude, Beatitude, whichever way you want to kind of look at it, but the kind of ecstatic joy, feeling of beatitude. Again, it's beatnik referencing back there again, but that feeling of kind of almost religious ecstasy, kind of in the moment. That I guess music and like freeing yourself in nightlife spaces that you get amongst your friends and in these places. That's what you get. So the beatitude is a wider work that will kind of, I guess, encompass my nightlife photography, and as I say, there is going to be a different landscape direction for me, which will be completely different to this work. But yeah, more projects.
Dave, I wish you the best of luck in the future. I'm so glad I came down to have a chat to you because, like I say, I hadn't seen you for about 20 years. I was trying to think the first time we met, but see, I've got a really good memory.
And we're both fully involved in the round back then, weren't we? So,
yeah, so I think I was playing pool at the Riverside.
Okay.
And you were with a large group of people. I was chatting to a couple of people in there.
That's way back when the Riverside still had the upstairs room for the pool table to be in. Oh no, it was downstairs, wasn't it, the pool table? It was downstairs.
I think it might have been downstairs. I don't know if it was before, like when the minis were cut in half and you could sit in the mini.
That's way back in the day. Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks a lot for chatting to people. Cheers, bro. Thanks a lot.
Peace.